In 2023, I started making a musical conlang called Stefa. It conveys meaning through melodies, so you can create beautiful pieces of music that are also stories, poems, or any other kind of message. They can be played on any instrument and can adapt to many musical styles, and can be used with melody alone or with complex harmony and counterpoint. This video is not about Stefa. It's about Amnenas, a musical conlang of a more cursed variety. Instead of melodies, it conveys meaning through chords, and instead of using the tuning system called equal temperament, which most instruments you're familiar with use, it uses a system called 7-limit just intonation. Just intonation is a big topic, but all you need to know for now is that while some chords will be very familiar and pleasant, others can get pretty dissonant and strange, much more so than any chord in equal temperament. There's also a lot of notes involved. Equal temperament has 12 notes per octave, which are often presented in a circle of fifths. If you keep going up a fifth, you'll get back where you started, adjusting for range, and cover every note in the process. But in just intonation, the ends of that circle don't quite meet up. So instead you have a line of fifths, which you can extend infinitely in both directions, plus a second dimension, and a third. Each note in just intonation exists somewhere in this infinite 3D grid, and every point in the grid is distinct. With this many extra notes, we'll need some different notation, so in addition to sharps and flats, we'll add 2 more pairs of accidentals, so we have 1 pair per dimension. Now that we have enough notes, let's build some chords. Each chord covers a small connected, or nearly connected, section of the grid, so we can make a unique little diagram for each one. This is a major triad. It's a simple shape and should sound pretty familiar. If you move it to another part of the grid, that moves it up or down, but it's still a major triad. Here's a minor triad, a sus4 chord, an augmented triad, and a major cluster. Now let's go back to the minor triad and make it even more minor. That makes a septimal triad, bringing in that third dimension of the grid. Or, using that dimension a little differently, here's a major triad with a flat fifth. Now let's do some 4-note chords. Here's a major 7th chord, a minor 7th chord, and a septimal 7th chord. Now a harmonic 7th chord, which is a lot like the dominant 7th chord you may be familiar with, but uses a septimal 7th instead of a minor one. Here's a few more. Minor 7 flat 5, major 9 without the 5th, major 7 sharp 5, and the especially crunchy septimal 9th chord. Skipping over a few, we get 42 different chord qualities, each with 3 or 4 notes. You could make a lot more than that, but that's enough for our purposes. All but 2 of them will have different inversions too. That is, it'll make a difference which note of the chord is the lowest. In all, that'll get us 147 different chords, but each of those can still exist in any part of the infinite grid. So for the conlang, let's add another restriction. Each chord has to share at least 1 pitch with the previous chord. We'll call that the pivot, though there might actually be more than 1 shared note depending on which 2 chords are involved. There will still be multiple options for the second chord, up to 16 depending on the pair of chords involved. So, now there are at least finite choices for the next chord at any given time, though given a long enough time span, you could wander pretty far in the grid. Now that we have something resembling a phonology in place, let's come up with some meanings. Let's say our root words can be 1 or 2 chords long. With 147 chords, that's over 20,000 possible roots, which is plenty for our purposes. But we'll need some way of distinguishing a 2-chord root from 2 1-chord roots back to back. That's where the pivots come in. We can group them into categories based on the bass motion. Does the bass note stay the same? And if not, is the bass note of each chord present in the other chord as a non-bass note? We can divide up the possibilities into 4 different types of pivots, which we'll call U, L, M, and P pivots. If 2 chords are connected by an L pivot, they're part of the same word. That might mean they're 2 halves of a root, or that one of them is a prefix or a suffix on the other. The other 3 pivot categories will tell us things about the relationship between the 2 words. With the U pivot, the 2 chords belong to different sentence units. They're parts of different noun phrases, or a subject and its verb, or something like that. The M and P pivots are where the detailed grammar comes in. With two nouns, they show whether they're a genitive phrase or being equated with each other. With two verbs, pivots distinguish a serial verb construction from one verb being used as an adverb to modify the second. With a noun and a verb, it could be object incorporation or simulative marking. Or, in the other order, either an active or a passive participle. With conjunctions and postpositions, the entire meaning of the word can change depending on the pivot. So, the meaning of a phrase is dependent on the pivots, but the meanings of the pivots themselves are dependent on the words. And you don't always get the full meaning until the head of the phrase, which is at the very end. When a noun is incorporated into a verb, it counts as part of the verb, so a noun-noun pivot before an incorporated noun might look like it's indicating the genitive until you get to the actual verb and find out it's really simulative marking. There's also a whole mess of verb suffixes, each of which conveys some combination of tense, mood, evidentiality, and meritivity, and 19 article prefixes to show noun number and several different flavors of definiteness. Those articles can stack up, so a particularly complicated noun phrase might start with 3 articles in a row. Any given chord could be a root, half of a root, or an affix, all depending on what pivots are involved. And all that depends on being able to analyze what the chords even are. The longer a text goes on, the crazier the accidentals tend to get, and the harder it is to recognize a chord on the page, though if you have a good ear, you could figure it out by that alone. Even if you start in the simple key of C, you're likely to get to some strange places before long. So, what does it sound like? Like this. If you enjoyed this video, you can check out all my videos in and about Stefa, that other musical conlang I mentioned. I've also got some actual spoken conlangs, and there will be more Amnenas in the future.